Hey there, Nico here at Zambesi Flora, a little nursery in the south of Lusaka where we grow herbaceous perennial plants found across the country. I just wanted to give you guys kind of a little bit of a tour of our operations and some of the areas where we grow some of this stuff. So why don't we go take a look? So here we have the grassland section, and as you can see, it wasn't always grassland. The Cycas revoluta are not obviously indigenous to Zambia, but they've been planted here quite some time ago, and well, they just kind of make up a nice little backdrop for it. Likewise, the two baobabs there are not indigenous to around Lusaka here, which were planted almost 30 years ago. But in this area we grow a number of indigenous bulbs that would be either in grassland areas or near grassland areas. As you can see right now, it's quite dry. We're in the middle of the winter here, and I use that term lightly. We don't really have seasons in Zambia, but soon enough, when the rains arrive, they will come up. So also in this area, you can see these aloes here. All indigenous aloes. The one that's still flowering here is Aloe esculenta, which is known from western Zambia, and this is a collection that I got actually from the late Mike Bingham, who collected it out in western Zambia, I believe. But most of the aloes are finished flowering now, but there are things that are starting to kind of come up in here as we change from the cold dry season into the hot dry season. Here we've got a little sign that spring is here. Again, I use that term very loosely here in southern Africa. This is Drimia macrocarpa. They look a little like asparagus at the moment as they shoot out of the ground. But this is one of the earliest flowering bulbs that will come up as the weather changes and heat starts to come back on again. Not too much to look at in terms of flowers with their little brown tan color flowers and stuff like that, but a great indicator that the seasons are changing as we move from the cold dry season into the hot dry season. So I'll be watching these guys as they come up, looking forward to that change of weather. So here we have kind of the woodland section on the property. We generally have tall grasses growing here, Panicum maximum actually, that like the shade. And so I've kind of built these little raised trunk beds with trunks of some of the trees that have either come down naturally or that we've had to take down for safety purposes. And on top of these, I grow some of the more low-growing or sensitive shade perennial plants that we have here in Zambia, just so that gets them above the grass a little bit more and that we can enjoy them. So even though it is the dry season here, there isn't exactly nothing happening. In this kind of area here, we have various larger perennials, Amorphophallus mossambicense, and this Stylochaeton here, which I am waiting for these seeds to ripen. Having natural spaces like this is fantastic for some of the wildlife around here, and we have things like the quail, or one of the native quails that loves this kind of area. The pouched rat, as well as then actually we just recently found a little hedgehog here on the plot too, which was quite exciting to see. But these are the infructescences of the Stylochaeton puberulus. These are not quite ripe yet. I can feel it. The berries are still quite hard, and I'll hopefully be keeping an eye on these just to come and harvest the seed so I can grow more of these guys. But interestingly enough, these have such a lovely fruity fragrance when they are ripe. Actually, they taste quite good as well. And it probably, I think that it is dispersed by little rodents, maybe even that hedgehog we found recently. So, although it looks very dry and nothing is happening, there's still plenty going on in here. Just seeing if we can get a shot of this quail, the quail, the francolin. You can just see him on that branch there, and there he is. On this, this is actually a cashew nut tree. Again, planted years ago. Oh, there he goes. They make quite a racket at times, but lovely to have them here on the plot. So here we have the sausage tree, Kigelia africana, in Bignoniaceae. This is naturally occurring on the plot. I never planted this. As you can see, the size of it is actually decent for around here, although they do get bigger. It tends to have other things climbing on up, and these lianas here, climbing up into the upper canopy, is Combretum mossambicense, and it's actually flowering at the moment, but a little out of my range. All those kinds of branches at the very top are the Combretum. And they'll burst into flower in a short period of time. Let's see if I can't zoom in a little on these flowers. Sorry about the unsteadiness and whatnot, but difficult to zoom in and capture these things, unfortunately. But also the Kigelia is flowering at the moment. These guys open at night, usually. Produce these long pendulous inflorescences. And then these kinds of fantastically dark purple, velvety kind of flowers. And then here, actually, just beside the Kigelia, we've got bitter leaf, Vernonia amygdalina, that's in full flower at the moment. This is one of the tree-like, large shrubby Vernonias. And full of these white flowers, quite sweetly scented. Usually full of bees. I see just a few of them kind of flying around right now, but lovely for giving that kind of splash of color at this time of year. So this is Kalaharia uncinata in the Lamiaceae family, previously classified as Claridendron uncinatum. It has an interesting phenology in that it grows in the dry season, starts to emerge in April-May, as the rains have finished, flowers, produces its fruit, and then disappears again by November, December, as the rains start to come on, producing these lovely orangish flowers with the kind of red center, or yellow center, sorry. A spiny plant, you got recurved spines on the stem, and then the peduncles. If the flowers are not pollinated, the peduncles can be persistent, forming little straight spines on them as well. But a lovely splash of color in some of the driest months of the year here. This is Rhynchosia hirta in the Fabaceae family. The flowers are just about finished, these inflorescences that they've got there. And it's climbing up into the top parts of the strychnos species here. Although the flowers aren't exceedingly showy, what is quite nice is the color of these seeds here, nice kind of dark bluish hues to it. So here in the nursery we are looking at the seed production area. These are all seed trays from last season. I haven't unpotted them yet, which I'll get to shortly, and maybe do a few videos of the unpotting of those. They'll stay here for the first year or so. And we have them protected on this bench with plastic, as sometimes the rains can be quite heavy downpours, which would be damaging to the developing seedlings. So yeah, they end up staying here for about a year before being moved to other sections in the nursery. And I'll just also point out some of the orchids that we've got growing in here. These are either collected from fallen branches, or even in some cases where trees have been brought down. And the orchids won't last too much longer on these fallen trees. So we grow them here to get them to flower so they can be identified. And then also in terms of trying to pollinate them, or in this case with this little polystachya, it's effectively self-pollinating, where we can then try growing these orchids from seed. So here we have some of the raised beds where we plant out the material after its first year in the seedling trays. Usually I actually do this kind of raised beds to make it easier to then dig up the material when it's ready. Although some plants tend to like to grow much deeper than the beds. and I accommodate that by doing kind of a two-layered raised bed. But these beds are about 11 meters long by about a meter and a quarter wide, and can hold quite a substantial amount of indigenous material. And you see some of these weeds that are still quite green, even though this area hasn't been watered since the end of our rains in late March, early April. So here we have the double raised bed, as I mentioned earlier. In this area, actually, I grew Costa spectabilis last year, as its rhizome can be upwards of 30 plus centimeters long. And we use a fairly sandy mix. I mix about 50% river sand with 50% of our local soil, just because with some of our rainfalls, we can get upwards of 4 inches or so in a day or in the course of a few days, and that can rot things quite quickly. Here is some larger troughs, and these are also for seed production, usually on things that we have quite a bit of seed, if we get a nice large amount of seed one year to grow them on. So here we've got some Costa spectabilis rhizomes that I haven't yet unpotted. These will be unpotted and then put into that taller raised bed. So that will be happening soon. We've also got gladiolus and tolbagia in there as well. And then also here we have more seedling trays and pots of things that are usually a little bit hardier to the rains than the stuff on the bench that I showed you earlier. And a few more kind of raised beds there on the side. And from here, this material, maybe after about 2 or 3 years in the raised beds, will make their way into the greater landscape around our property, or will be potted and sold on, essentially, or even sold internationally too. So yeah, this is our main kind of production area, so let's go and see the orchids. So here is the production space for the orchids. I've literally just started doing this in the last few months since COVID became an issue and I had a little bit more time on my hands. I have to bring everything in, the vessels, the media, all of that kind of stuff in terms of trying to grow them. We don't have the stuff easily available in Zambia, unfortunately, but it's actually been quite fun to do. So just on this top shelf here, I've got the seedlings sown into these smaller containers, larger containers. Basically at the beginning I was just kind of trying to get any and all containers that I could to be able to sow these. And I do this in this very low-tech box, but that's all I can do at the moment. I don't have funds enough to do it properly, but I make do as best I can. Oh, and then down here we've been potting some of these on. Let's see if we can't see. So this is actually the leopard orchid, Ansellia africana, that we've got growing. So I'm quite happy with these little seedlings as they develop. Again, this is my first time ever growing orchids from seed, so plenty of mistakes, but hopefully there's going to be more successes in the long run. We got some little bulbophyllums here. I don't know how well we're going to be able to see those. There's a little too much condensation on the sides and top there, but you just kind of see these little seedlings here. So far it's been quite good. This is Bulbophyllum Eliottii. So, hopefully in a few more months' time there'll be more to show. And down here we've got some of the terrestrials that I've so far succeeded with, which has pretty much been just Eulophia species. But quite interesting, quite nice to see them start to develop. Little masses of tissue that are just now kind of looking like they're starting to show signs of putting up hopefully some shoots, but we'll still have to wait and see. But yeah, no, we'll keep you posted on how all of this develops. So that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed the little tour around our place. If you like the video, please share it. subscribe, and we'll be doing more of these videos. So keep posted, and we'll see you soon.